Woohoo! The moon's out now, actually. And it's not always that I get to do it in the midst of. But I found out I could also not do it live unless I have, I don't know, more subscribers. So tell your friends, tell your foes. And maybe we can all do this together at some point. But until then, here I am. Happy full moon in Gemini. And the moon's hanging out with Mars. Apparently will also occlude or hide. The moon will hide Mars. And I think, okay, and so the next day, Mars rises to its highest point and becomes, and it's visible to us. It'll be visible to many people, the occlusion, but the actual, high point will be visible to us because it'll be, quote unquote, the brightest star in the sky, or brighter than the brightest star in the sky, brighter than Sirius, which is weird, which is also very potent, which I think is also, this is just what I get. I do think that Mars will sort of lean itself into the ear of the moon and sort of tell secrets together and harbor information together. And as the moon moves forward, okay, and before we even go there, those secrets in that conversation also has a lot to do with the, general obfuscation because of the occlusion, but also there's been a lot of friction within these sort of north node, south node kind of energies within Gemini and Sagittarius. And I think as the moon moves forward, those kinds of disagreements or sort of oppositions or sort of various sights of seeing, different perspectives or what have you, as that moves forward, it's also going to, the first thing it's going to interact with is Saturn, which is also in retrograde. Mars will still be in retrograde until January 12th, so weird time. But not that far away. But so as it moves forward, it kind of talks to every other retrograde planet, and it's almost like a relay race of information as it shifts and transitions. And I think that says that whatever it is that this sort of secret interaction here with, Mars and the moon in Gemini, Mars being in retrograde, and opposing the sun as well as the moon. The moon and Mars opposing the sun. As that moves forward, will also move into an opposition with Saturn and then later an opposition with Uranus. And I think very much that has a lot to do with whatever that information it is, and this challenging interaction between Mars and between Gemini and Sagittarian energies will move on to challenge ourselves before it challenges the collective. Challenges Saturn before it challenges Uranus. So it'll change our minds before it changes other minds. It'll change our structures before it begins to change other outside structures. And, even saying that, it's almost like, it reminds me of, mass experience, yes, but how isolating that can be. And how often, seasonal depression is a great example of that, because depression is very isolating in a feeling, and you can feel very alone in your experience. However, it is a time where lots of people are experiencing that. So there's very much that kind of understanding in the air for many things, not just seasonal depression. That's just the best example I can illustrate that with. But yeah, there's a lot of shit going on. But so I thought that with that, and with that awareness, we can pull some cards and see how that energy will affect us before it affects before we affect everything else. And maybe that's the key point, is how it changes us will change how we interact, and that ultimately changes probability, and changes momentum, and changes, the way that we move through things. Okay. That's interesting and very distinct. Okay. All right. I like that. It's just very intense, but there was also like a whole lot of air. Are we going to get a lot of wind? I don't know. But that's also a lot of communication and a lot of thought in the way that carries too. So whatever that is an intensity for sure. But party on, full moon vibes. Let's breathe together and figure out what's up. In which case, if you've done this with me before, just sit comfortably and be open to whatever it is that you may feel. And I'm just going to breathe and try and tap into all of that. So just have your hands kind of available and all of that jazz. Take a deep breath in. And exhale. Take a deep breath in. And exhale. Take a deep breath in. And exhale. Party on. For as fast as and like intense and like rushed as like shuffling felt, I felt all of that slow down. I felt all of the anxiety of feeling watched. I felt like I was being watched from a different point of view. And the Eight of Cups was the first card, which is a lot of anxiety, or can be a lot of anxiety, but it can also be a lot of opportunity to tap in and just sort of tune in. I genuinely think that when our body is kind of is reacting in some way to things, and it leads to physical manifestations of anxiety, that is your body discussing something with you. Whether it be, like, hey, that you don't want to be here, you don't want to be around this person, or like, hey, that this isn't your comfort zone, or what have you. Because the body talks in many ways. And I think the more familiar we get with those kinds of conversations, the better. That's also why you see such lunar wildness when it is a full moon around, is because it's a lot of people who are not aware of the feelings. They're not fully aware of the feelings that they might have in their bodies due to this added of lunar energy. And so they go out and they get crazy and they get wild and they break stuff and drink a lot and hate themselves tomorrow. I don't know. Excuse me. Those kinds of experiences can tend to be very heavy and feel very immobilizing. And what I think that this is calling to is also finding a feeling of float. and to be above the clouds and above the smog, above the chaos. Finding an airiness that is filling rather than suffocating. Which is funny living in this crazy city. And the wind being what it is, sometimes I feel like I have to time my breath sometimes just to not get fucking knocked out by it. And that may be something that we all are going to learn emotionally and psychologically rather than just physically and with the elements. Which is why justice is here, and inverted and blind, because it's much more about the sensation of, the reality of the sensation of, rather than the reality of it around you, I suppose, because she's blindfolded, so it doesn't matter if it's there or not. If she feels it, it's what is. But there's also a vastness that can exist within that if you acknowledge and accept the potentiality of abyss, the blank map of creation, the, possibility to invert, like in the night when you look out into the horizon and water, the water meets the sky and you can't really see where it ends or it begins. So it could switch. It could totally switch. And there was something else that I was reading about, is space actually this fluid-like material existing between rather than emptiness, existing in between everything and viscous in its support, so that's actually what, gravity might be. Like those fucking sensory deprivation tanks kind of deal. But in that context, yes, the two can be sort of inverted and reverted. And maybe that's the understanding that this Sagittarian Gemini energy, or dichotomy, needs, is that sort of inversion. And years ago I had suggested that there was an inversion in the way that people were existing in their energetic dominance, and I think perhaps this might be another step to that. This might be an added action, almost, these are sort of switches being turned on, or cogs being set into place, and this is one of relevant to that. Air still is in Aries, and these are a lot of powerful feminine energies, also underwritten by the Knight of Wands. Whoa. Which obviously all of these are energies. They don't have gender, but they do have an energetic dominance or suggestive nature. And the Knight of Wands is actionary. It's all right hand. It's if you were to tie your left hand behind your back and kick ass. It's, well, I can't even say that. It's not all right hand. You wouldn't have that passion and that fire if it were not for the left hand, if it were not for insight and intuition and emotion. However, it is directed and rolled through that. It is to a point where maybe sometimes they can lose sight to that. But in general, intensity, heat, direction, all of that jazz. It's kind of chaos, but it doesn't have to be. Ooh, okay. So the Queen of Wands is also here, and the Queen of Wands being the last card of this. So the last card of this pool. So potentially what's coming or what's fueling. But with the Knight of Wands at the bottom of this, they both have wands. And she is holding on to hers, and he is kind of extending it. Which feels less foreboding than it can, or than it often does. It feels more like an offering. And it feels more like she gifted him this and he's trying to gift it to you, rather than attack, or rather than like war. While those also may be aspects of it, the opportunity that we ought to see is a gifting of understanding of what that intensity can mean and what that intensity can create. Because it doesn't have to mean bogged down or isolated or trapped. It can mean afloat and above the crowd. There's a character in a Hieronymus Bosch painting much like that. And like when there's groups of people in madness, there's like this nun kind of in the back just like chilling, and just kind of observing and learning from that. And she's not like a swine nun. She's has like a nest of ravens in her hair. It's a very strange creature. But I think that is perhaps what it is that this knowledge can lean toward or lean into. I just noticed all of these very minimal green elements. There's rooting injustice above the abyss, or in the way that this is. There's trees above her, but it's inverted. There's a cloak on this 8 of Cups. There's like snake plants, like vines, like almost like laurel leaves too, on the Queen of Wands. And a flower that she offers, and then this sort of green smoke over the Knight of Wands. And like, I don't know, you know how you pulverize? I do know. I don't know why I say I don't know. You know how you can pulverize like leaves, like matcha is just green tea leaves, like pulverized like for full potency. That's very much this. And it's sort of like stages of protection and like shielding, and again that isolation turns into stages of rooting and grounding and stability, and ultimately, I mean, that is how trees and other plants kind of communicate with each other and sort of create community. So rather than the isolation, it's the owning and the ability to relate with that, and then that in itself becomes sort of like prosperous ground you can stand on. And my first thought with these leaves was like snakes, but what a badass if you can stand in your own garden of snakes and feel like hella protected, and hella understood, because they're not attacking you. They're meant to protect you. And what a lack of fear. What a beautiful lack of fear. And to be able to even reach down that and create an offering out of it, is very much also speaking to me as far as like reckoning with shadows, embracing shadows, like the worst parts of you. Can you address it? Can you understand it? Can you nurture or give it maybe what it's needing? Because all of the, I don't know, damaged parts of ourselves are the ones that act out. The hurting aspects of ourselves are the ones that are asking to be heard and understood. The hurting need to be heard. I don't know, it sounded very similar for a second. And with that, almost kind of like vaporizes the tangibility of that spirit. And in essence, you become your own angel for your own demon. Which is very interesting, because I've seen both. And both are very much present now. Whereas I feel fear was so much more present in a visceral, slick stage. And as of one of the last moons, I remember being like, there's fucking angels here, but like, that means shit's gonna get fucking weird, because I don't I don't anticipate easy transitions when angels are present. But what was I saying? Snakes, blah blah blah, pulverizing. That becomes vaporizing. The demolecularization of it, that really clears, bridges paths, and allows for an aura of positive growth from these experiences, an aura of love from these experiences that then fuels a passionate offering, because that's what the Knight of Wands is rocking here. He doesn't want to hurt. Damn. Yeah, he doesn't want to hurt. He wants to offer you information. Welcome you into the kingdom, I suppose, of the energy that these characters rule. Which also, I just noticed, Justice is surrounded by trees, much like the High Priestess has her pillars of balance, right? But she finds balance in natural structure versus the High Priestess has very much like a temple constructed for her. The Queen of Wands is surrounded by a fortress much like the Four of Swords, only it's wands in this case, and they are very, very prominent. The Four of Swords is a much like, it's like a small home, but perfect. This is very much like a large home temple, natural temple, natural embodiment of a temple, which is very realistically your body being a temple, which is why mine is the way that it is. And all of these characters carry this sort of pyramid with them, or these Wands characters that are present. So again, in showing you this positive or directive agreement is still about going beneath and going underneath and going to well beyond what's understood. And I wonder if that's what exists also in their minds. I think she's healing too. Damn. Okay. Which is so interesting to me because, again, we have these aggressive sort of fight-ridden characters that scream very much like angry Aries energy. And I don't think that's what's going on. That's what's going on here at all. And maybe that's precisely what the Eight of Cups is kind of like nervous about or anxious about, is the chaos underneath her. And how easily you can get sucked into that smog rather than rise above it. And be in the world but not of it. And I mean, ultimately where Justice could find a lot of fear, because, you know, there's literally reality shows based off of the idea of touching things you do know but like blindfolded because your sensory system is kind of overwhelmed. It's like two opposite sides of seeing, really. And this Eight of Cups would think that this Knight of Wands was attacking, or that this Queen of Wands wants him to. But they just want to keep us warm, I think, with this fire, with this and that's not to say trust everyone or anyone or give anybody the benefit of the doubt, really. But it is to say to challenge yourself to understand where it is exactly that they're coming from. Because again, the hurting are most often the most heard. and or that need to be the most heard, that need to be heard in some way. And I believe that that is this offering. However, these characters could very well choose not to listen. Could very well choose to shut down their senses. And maybe that's part of like how a lot of us are feeling lately, very lonely and isolated and sad, and want to shut down from, emotional experience, want to cut ourselves off from those experiences for fear of pain, or for fear of rejection, or for fear of, embarrassment. But it doesn't have to be any of those things. All of those things have more to do with your fear of yourself and your guilt and shame of yourself than the experiences than your actual fear of being, embarrassed in front of other people. Like, you're already afraid of being embarrassed. It has nothing to do with their reaction. That's why people don't sing karaoke. God, I was just talking about that the other day. But what a closed off experience, and I've been there, done that, and I will tell you, promise you, that it's not like, some circuit board of many switches that we just get to be like, I do want to feel happiness and joy and ecstasy, and I don't want to feel, guilt or jealousy or shame, so let's turn those off, and this is all I'm open to. Like, no, that's not how it happens. It's a full-on one switch, on or fucking off. And if you shut down in one way, it shuts down the whole fucking thing, and it's very hard to relearn, or like learn how to open yourself up again, learn how to turn that back on. But yeah, and that also comes with the non-dual perspective of our emotional experiences, like your capacity for pain and torment is also very much your capacity for love and devotion. And I think that is also probably a very interesting point in why organized religion is capitalized on our guilt and our shame, to be able to sort of harness more devotion from us. How weird. How gross. What an epiphany. I literally just came to that. Okay. Okay. Yeah, duh. I was like, okay, but what's the ride through this? Like, what's the way to bond these two things, these two sides? Because they very much kept drifting the more I talked. And I got the Knight of Pentacles and the Ace of Cups, which is very interesting. The Knight of Pentacles also does not look like he wants to fight. He looks like he wants to hide a little bit. But he's also, it looks like he's with a bunch of friends, or maybe hiding behind a shield, or like hanging behind his shield. Presenting his shield. Let's not say hide. He's presenting his shield. And his horse looks safe. His horse looks very loved. I feel like this is an honor and devotion of softness. This is the honor and integrity of vulnerability. And this is the noble way of coming at combat. The nobleman's way, the peace be unto us, like, let's talk, let's be diplomatic before we are wild. Let's be diplomatic in relation to each other before we lose sight of our humanity and the ability to understand. The Ace of Cups is an offering in that. There's an offering in that context, and has a lot to do with the emotional nature of things. There's a pure hand and an offering. Ooh, that reminds me of a dream I had. Elevated thought process. I don't know, are we like in for our own kind of fucking trip? Or all of this is going to feel like a trip and we have to integrate? Ace of Cups from the Eight of Cups. You know, the interesting thing about that is I feel like if this Eight of Cups is offering this cup, then that would make her the Seven of Cups. And the Seven of Cups, I think, has a little bit more anxiety about lack and opportunity. And I don't think she would give it, I don't think this energy would offer that if that was true, or if that was like the natural declination of it, which is exactly what the Knight of Pentacles would do. I mean, it's like they say, the people who give the most are the people who often don't have as much or have the least, you know? And I think that's perhaps the Eight of Cups, like riding above panic, riding above fear of lack, riding above, you know, this sort of like dog-eat-dog, you know, survival mechanism in being able to offer. And being able to offer fire, water to fire, which would ultimately create different elements to play with. Maybe that's what clears the cloud underneath her, honestly. Or what lifts her higher above the cloud with its own smoke. Yeah, I don't know. The winter can be that too, where we're all like, no, more warmth, me. And like, you know, hoarding our own kind of emotional energy and what have you. And, you know, hoarding time, I suppose, as if there's not enough. When this Eight of Cups, amidst the anxiety of not enough, understands that there will always be plenty. And the Knight of Pentacles is like honorable and willing enough to be able to be like, we're going to need to work together to make this work. Like almost like the mediator between two warring parties, that, you know, have so much of this resource but not enough of this resource, and so much of this resource and not enough of this resource, kind of situation. But I mean, ultimately that's a lot of, yes, that exists in real times and in real places, but like in ourselves and in our own mind, that idea is also a survival mechanism. It's also something that exists in animals when they live in captivity, and limits imagination. So I think that is part of how to dispel that myth, is understanding those concepts and understanding that you are not an animal in captivity. There is nothing in lack as long as you are willing to put your creative mind to the task and put your creative will and your creative passions to the task, because you'd be surprised how many creative solutions you can come up with, or perhaps redirections, creative redirections, whatever it is. Hope can be a little bit more scary in those contexts as well, and I feel like that's also probably where this green comes in. Because you need a little light and love to have that sort of hopefulness. But it's been around you and underneath you this whole time. This is really interesting. I don't know. I mean, I do know. I'm choosing my words wisely. In the way that this has already showed itself in our political or world structures. Okay. Deep breaths, my friend. Take a deep breath in. And exhale. Take a deep breath in. And exhale. Take a deep breath in. And exhale. It's a lot of movement there. Interesting. Okay, so there was a lot of movement there. There was a lot of like tides really pulling. But all of these cards are a little bit more contemplative and a little bit more still than that. Jack of Spades, Six of Clubs, Nine of Clubs, Five of Hearts. I love this because the Five of Hearts is exactly what I was talking about with the fear of the abyss, and that being a blank slate of creation. Because the five is literally like Tipperary is the sun. It's this like hall of fucking doors in your meditative space that allows you to go anywhere you want to and take any idea and any energy wherever it is that you want to. This is the point of where the mirror refracts. So whatever it is that we send out, laser points into whatever physical manifestations or energetic manifestations. It is the center of the tree of life. It is where all things intertwine. It is where it is all connected. Sometimes we can get stuck there for fear of possibility. But that's all doubts and silly things. Which is why in certain meditations they will have you put your thoughts somewhere else so that you can freely roam on this, strange map. I'm going to change the battery on this first because it's going to die. No idea if it's in the same spot, but it'll work. Jack of Spades, Six of Clubs, Nine of Clubs. Again, we have that reflective nature with the 6 and the 9. Aleister Crowley regarded it as a very queer number. And, we all love the old 6-9. But, so, all of these cards are very much about, stillness, research, and, exploring sense of self. The 6 of Clubs is very much like creating stability and opening up understanding. Is the opposite side perspective. It's integrating, maybe not integrating, but understanding the arguments. A lot of people say you want to understand the rhetoric of your opponent well, so that you can, break that down and build that up toward your, to help your understanding, or to further your understanding in a debate or whatever. Um, the Jack of Spades is very much I feel like it's like a quiet, contemplative character. You know, like the kind of people that like would prefer to stay home and clean than like go out. Because, you know, like polishing or scrubbing, monotonous tasks like that give them pleasure. But it doesn't give a lot of us pleasure. But it can. It can become a meditative state in it. You know, you can fucking zone out and just like go ham. He understands that. He has the patience for that. This kind of character, this kind of persona, this kind of energy understands those things and embraces those things and is not irritated by those things. And with time moving very fast and, you know, holidays and all of these things and the cold and shifting the weather and, again, these feelings of lack, that can be a difficult understanding to have. But it is an easy understanding to find. And that is a key point. Just like information may be hard to find, but finding the time, or like finding the time to read or what have you, or certain information may be hard to find, but it can be with the patience that the Jack of Spades offers and brings forth. All of that moving forth also lends itself to this Nine of Clubs, finding the time and the ability to enjoy time with the self, to enjoy time in isolation, to enjoy time in your own mind. And to be able to move with that, or to be able to project that. Because there's an element of wholeness reaching out. There's an element of completion and branching out, which is growth toward completion, toward another completion, toward a cyclical cycle of completion. And also toward a rooting. I feel like that's also what that extension is wholeness and a rooting, like a solid root, which you can propagate, which is the same thing by a different fucking name. You know, same shit. So for lack of repeating myself, too much and too often, a pet peeve of mine, although I do find many ways to repeat myself to keep it interesting for myself and others. I think there's a lot of combative energies and a lot of messages lost in translation for a lot of people, and a lot of disconnection there. But this is an opportunity to be able to find that connection again, and an opportunity to find patience with yourself so that you can find that connection again. You can't force it. Power over force, my friend, because force is not power. Haha! Love it. Queen of Swords fell out, which is so funny because she knows what is up, and she, I think, is so wise with her thoughts that she can direct the wind and direct the current. And that is the bridge across from this thought and that thought, this party of thought to that party of thought. And that exists very much realistically in our disagreements with people and the world and blah, blah, blah. But that also very much exists within us, which is where fricative states like anxiety can exist, because our left brain is disagreeing with our right brain, because our heart is disagreeing with our brain, because our intuition is disagreeing with our heart and our brain, whatever it is. The Queen of Swords knows this, knows how to direct it. There's actually a really good research paper that I found about directive current as a cure for depression. And I absolutely think practices like yoga and meditation and Reiki and light language are all ways of directing current. And I probably wouldn't be where I am if it were not for understanding my mental health through that context, through that, psychosomatic and spiritual and magical context. And quite honestly, very ancestral context, because learning about the medicine wheel and in my culture and in various cultures has also helped me understand what that energetic current is and how it moves. Honestly, understanding basic current, basic Ohm circuits is also very helpful in understanding that. Understanding, Tesla science and electric current is also very helpful in that understanding. It exists within everything. This is the truth. This is my truth. This is the truth that I have come to recognize and see in action. And the Queen of Swords knows that, and the Queen of Swords can direct that. So when there is that separation and agreement and separation and understanding, and those eyes become closed and those eyes become resistant, the Queen of Swords knows what's up and has faith in her understanding of self. And that is maybe having enough faith in yourself to know when you need to do more research or when you need to walk away, or when you need to reevaluate why it is you fight for the things that you do, or argue the things that you do. When we pick and choose our battles, what is the battles that we pick and why? Yeah, there's a lot of soul searching, my friends. The winter's for it. The winter's here for it. I hope that this Five of Hearts place is a very happy, safe place for you to explore. Just as exhilarating as it has been for me. But yeah, I digress, and I repeat myself too much. So, party on. Love you long time. I don't know, happy full moon, and happy Mars is getting weird, and happy, I don't know, life. Happy life, friends. Party on. I'm gonna go finish my tea and get high and enjoy the moon. And I hope you do as well. Take a look at it. I'm sure you'll find something interesting. But until then, adieu. Party on. And until next time.